Hello everyone! In this tutorial, we will go over how to complete the TSP Sustainability Practices Questionnaire. If there are any customers that requested you to respond, they will be listed here. For example, you will see SSCA utility members who requested a response as part of the Alliance annual assessment. If you have already completed a questionnaire this year, you can share that latest response. Otherwise, click Update Response to enter new information, like recent GHG emissions data, for example. If you explore a bit, you will see a newsfeed with timely relevant information about TSP and other more general developments in environmental sustainability. The Browse Practices section helps you find industry-specific practices you can implement at your organization. A data reporting section, which we explore in another video, is available for you to track your organization's water use, waste generation, or estimate your organization's GHG emissions if you are not using other tools to do so. If your organization has already answered in the past, the questionnaire will be pre-populated with past answers. The Sustainability Practices Questionnaire is made of two parts: environmental, social, and governance core questions about your organization's policies, targets, as well as data collection and reporting practices. This is the mandatory part of the questionnaire to answer. The second part of the questionnaire is industry-specific environmental practices that you can assess your organization against, as well as consider integrating into your improvement planning activities. There are currently over 400 practices covering 24 industry segments. This is the result of countless individuals and organizations that have volunteered their time and expertise within the framework of a Creative Commons content governance process. This means all practices identified were researched and debated before being included. The resulting practice details are available free of charge under a Creative Commons license. You can find more about participants and the process itself in the FAQ on the TSP website. If you need a spreadsheet to circulate within your organization, click Download. If you wish to invite a contributor to the website, you can also do so. If you are walking between offices to gather answers, or otherwise are not at your desk, you can conveniently use the TSP website on your smartphone. Switch to dark mode if you prefer to lower your GHG emissions while responding to the Sustainability Practices Questionnaire. The questions with required answers are marked with a vertical red bar. If there is a previous answer from your organization to a similar question, it will show up as a suggestion with a blue circle. Answers are automatically saved as a work-in-progress assessment. You can restart wherever you left off, or another person on your team can. Note the assessment is not officially complete until you review it and click Complete. At various places, you will be prompted to add a note or comment. Please add a public URL if supporting materials are available publicly, or upload a supporting document, for example, a PDF of the Employee Code of Conduct. Make sure it is okay with your IT department and outgoing uploads are not restricted. The note icon toggles comments on and off. Let's check we have answered all required core questions. By clicking Peers, you can compare your organization's answers against an anonymized, aggregated set of organizations that answered the questionnaire as well. You see the percentage of peers that responded yes or no. Your answer is highlighted in yellow. Your organization's NAAICA's code enables reporting of relevant industry-by-industry trends. That is why it is a required question. Reporting greenhouse gas emissions is also optional at this point, but we really encourage you to start measuring GHG emissions. The Alliance has great in-depth training materials on how to get started with GHG emissions tracking, for example. If you are using a third-party tool, enter the number directly. If you are not using any tool to track emissions yet, you can enter data in TSP Tracking Tool. Then click Import from Tracking Tool here. Setting GHG emissions targets is increasingly becoming mandatory. A valid target includes a baseline, improvement figure, and target date. For example, reduce Scope 1 emissions by 10% each year from a 2020 baseline to achieve net zero emissions by 2040. If you do not have a target yet, please explain why in the comments. We are moving to the planning step. Improvement planning through the tool is optional. Nonetheless, it might be one of the most beneficial exercises to do for your organization. So we will cover the basics here. Improvement planning requires to select an industry segment and conduct an assessment against industry-specific practices first. The list of actionable practices is grouped by category segments. Scoring on each practice is done through both the intrinsic value of implementing the practice and how many industry peers have implemented it themselves. If need to, you can assess your organization against multiple industry segments. When I choose Not Applicable, a comment box is popping up because the practice was identified as relevant for your industry. It is pertinent to explain why it does not apply to your organization. After assessing your organization against all practices in the industry segment and understanding where your organization fits against peers, you are ready to create an improvement plan. Each section represents a major operational activity or asset category for a specific industry, construction in our case. Under each section, we see environmental practices associated to the operational activity or asset category, together with their respective intrinsic value in terms of environmental impact, operation cost, etc. Thus, a practice with a high return on investment that is also implemented by most peers will have a very high opportunity score. This is a valuable tool you can use to prioritize initiatives internally. In case you recently joined the company, might not be familiar with some of these environmental practices or why they were selected to be included in the company improvement plan, you can learn more about the specific practices in the knowledge sharing part of the website. Clicking through a specific practice, we can read details about the practice and its implementation. Implementing this practice will improve energy and GHG emissions, as shown here. The content of the TSP website is available under a Creative Commons license. This means you can copy, edit, and redistribute the content as you see fit, as long as there is a mention of where you originally found it. We can like the practice, follow it to be notified when updates are made to the page, comment on how to improve the content, or start a discussion with other users interested in learning about the practice. We can also access all the practices directly from the homepage. Under the Browse Practices section,
in the Review step, you have the opportunity to see exactly how the response will look to a customer. In the Summary section, we find the date at which the response will be marked complete, as well as the name and contact information of the organization. The name and contact information can be updated on the profile page, accessible through settings. The highlight tiles show answers to key questions at a glance. An orange tile indicates a positive answer, while a gray tile indicates a negative answer. We can see here that the company has a formalized strategy, is tracking environmental metrics, but does not report them publicly, though the company has also communicated environmental targets. As the company created an improvement plan through TSP, we see here the environmental category the plan is targeting. In this case, most of the improvements are expected to be around energy and GHG emissions. Finally, we see here the rolled-up score for the mandatory core section of the questionnaire. Let's dive into the details. There is a somewhat even distribution of scores between 0 and 100. Thus, the company's score at 34% is roughly in the bottom 50%. Benchmarking is based on 1644 responses that were available at the time this response was completed. For each question, we can see the company answer, as well as comments made to support the answer, including links to publicly available documents or documents uploaded to the TSP platform directly. For yes/no questions, we can also find the aggregated anonymized percentage of peers answering affirmatively. That might be one of the most interesting metrics to present to your own executives in order to prioritize environmental initiatives. Here we see that 95% of respondents have an employee code of conduct in place, so if your company doesn't have one, that might be a high priority to get it done.
We stop on the GHG emissions target section. As we can see, 19% of respondents have a science-based target, 15% a net zero target, and 66% another kind of target. That could be very interesting to dive down into what framework is used to generate those other targets, maybe by reaching out to peers during Industry Alliance's roundtable discussions. Here, the company responded to an optional industry-specific environmental practices assessment. Furthermore, the company created an improvement plan by selecting specific practices to work on within the coming year. As with the mandatory course section, we have aggregated anonymized comparisons with peers. While fixed points are allocated by questions in the course section, scoring on industry-specific environmental practices is done based on the company's answer, the intrinsic value of practice, and overall implementation rate amongst peers. Review your answers and notes. A vertical red bar indicates a question with a required answer that has none yet, in which case, scroll to the industry section title and click the Update link. If you made a mistake and selected an incorrect industry segment, just click Remove to delete that section entirely. This concludes the optional industry practices and improvement planning part. You can download the result as a PDF printout or an Excel spreadsheet. Click Complete to create a dated record in the system. It will take you automatically to the Share step. Here are listed all the pending requests from customers. You can accept requests to share your latest response or ignore them individually. If you have shared a response with an organization in the past, but somehow there is no pending request from that organization this year, you can nonetheless proactively share the latest response with them. You can also proactively share your response with additional stakeholders that are not listed above by entering a contact email address at that stakeholder organization. Congratulations, you are done. Let's go back to Home and click History. Under the Previously Completed section, we find the latest completed questionnaires as well as past ones. We can also see the list of customers those responses were shared with. This concludes this tutorial on how to complete a sustainability practices assessment. Thank you for watching. When you have any questions, please reach out to support at tspproject.org.